Bonjour, Guten Tag, Hola. Today's CrowdStack snack is all about translation. This is a question that comes up all the time. I see people talking about how to build international communities, whether you've got just a few folks in your community speaking another language other than English, in this case, is what we're talking about, or you've got a mass of members in a certain country that you're trying to serve. And so how do you approach that problem? There's a few ways that I like to look at the situation. First of all, how many native speakers do you have in that specific language, and how can you best serve them? So for small numbers of people in a language that is not maybe one of the big five, sometimes it's best to just let them use their browser translator. Most modern browsers now allow you to translate languages, and just let them use that to communicate in the community. If you have a larger group of people speaking a language and they ask for some space, another approach is to set aside one forum and say, go ahead and post, for example, in German or Spanish or French in this particular forum. You know, if you have enough people to support a conversation in a certain language, but not necessarily translating the entire community, that can be a really good solution. You can set up multiple different forums maybe for them and put them in a category and say all of these forums are in French, for example, and that can be really helpful. Now, what if you have a mass of users in a specific country who you know are going to be using your product or wanting to talk to each other? Then it's time to perhaps consider setting aside specific independent communities that you can fully translate into whatever language they're using in that country, or even multiple dialects for that country. And the reason for that, even though it's a little bit of a stretched resource for your community management team, you've got a lot more ground to cover, it can be better because things go beyond just language. When you're in a different country, a different culture, you need to think about culture and nuance and politics and all sorts of things. When you're branching out into a country that is not your own, your company or your organization's headquarters country, you can't just translate things and call it a day. I've definitely run into situations where someone has done a translation for us in the past, way back in the past, and we had people who speak that language in a different country arguing over the meaning of different words, for example. So if you start to go down that path and you have enough people to support an actual separate community, sometimes that's the better solution. And then you just need to find ways to make sure your resources at headquarters can fully serve and support those independent communities. Perhaps you need to hire additional help on the ground. The best case scenario is to actually have native speakers in that country actually managing that community. And even better if that can be a member of your community who has stepped forward to actually volunteer to help out. Another thing I just wanted to mention, because I don't think the word has fully gotten out yet, is that Google Translate, which used to be the go-to tool and really handy, that it was a little widget, little snippet of code that you could put into the header of your community, and that would allow your members to have a little handy drop down. I want to see this community in Swahili. They could actually translate into dozens of languages just on the fly. That tool is being deprecated and you cannot download it anymore, unfortunately. But the reason behind that is because most modern browsers now do natively support translation. So it's not quite as necessary as it was, but it definitely takes away some flexibility from community managers who might have been relying on that as a quick way to translate. So if you know you need to localize your platform, you need to talk to your platform vendor and also make sure that you can have access to the language files to do that translation, or bring in a translator to do that for you. Definitely something to think about up front before your community starts to grow, and make sure you get that taken care of. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, pretty please, and Bir la Machagat.